Ohio high school football. It's a juggernaut each and every week. I'm going to take you on an inside look at the high school coaching world. In the world of high school coaching, there is far more than what people see after 7 p.m. on a Friday night. This is the Coach's Approach.
Welcome to the Coach's Approach, a podcast where we sit down with high school coaches and get the cold, hard facts about the high school coaching world. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk X's and O's. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk the X's and O's. Win the day or dominate the day. The choice is yours.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Coach's Approach podcast. I'm your host, George Gresco. Today in the coach's booth, we have Hall of Fame coach and former Meyer High School head football coach, Steve Trivisonno. Coach, welcome to the show.
Well, great. Thanks for having me on. It's always good to sit back and talk about the old days and the great profession of coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a great show. But before we get started, I want to shout out my sponsors, Anthony's Family Restaurant in Eastlake, right on the corner of 91 and Vine Street. Also, G&G Printing, based out of Menor. All right, Coach, once again, welcome. I'm super excited for the opportunity to sit down and talk with you about your amazing coaching career up until this point. I'm going to start with your athletic coach or your athletic career.
Okay.
You played safety at Menor High School. You graduated from Menor High School in 1981. You earned yourself a Division I scholarship to Bowling Green State University, home of the Falcons. Can you talk a little bit about your high school and college playing career?
Well, you guys, it was like a long time ago now. I'm trying to remember back that far. I loved my days at Menor. Still spend time with a number of the guys I played with, and those relationships never go away. We just went and spent some time with one of Mike Garber, who played ball with us, with me, and on vacation over Christmas, and I got to see him. So, so we're close to a lot of different people, and you never forget those days. And we loved doing that, and it was fun to come back and be the head coach of the place where you went to school.
Sure.
And enjoyed my years at Bowling Green. It seemed like a long time ago again. And moved and used that and got a degree from a great university and went into teaching and coaching there on after. So it was good. I did a good job of trying to use those to prepare myself, and they both places prepared me very well.
Yeah, and my brother's actually pretty excited. We didn't know after research and stuff. My brother graduated from Bowling Green too. I forget what year he graduated, but he was pretty excited. After I told him that, I called him up last night. He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Did you know Trivisonno graduated from Bowling Green also?" And he didn't know that, so he's pretty excited.
Those were good old days.
After your playing career was over at Bowling Green, you wind back up in the Menor Public Schools. You were assistant coach for the Cardinals from 1988 to 1995. In 1994, though, you were a candidate to possibly become the next head football coach at Menor High School. Mm-hmm. I believe that was when Dick Kirschbaum resigned.
Correct.
Menor went in a different direction, hiring Mike Plavansky, which is now the head coach at Canfield. At the time, were you a little upset that they went in a different direction hiring Mike?
Well, at that time you were young and you always think you know everything. And
isn't that the truth?
And you go through it and you kind of just keep working at it. And, I knew Mike, we'd worked together, and so he had some head coaching experience at a small school, and you knew that's the way it was going. In those days, it was hard to get a head coaching job without experience. Yeah. And so I knew that would be an issue, but ultimately I knew I was the hometown boy and I'd get my chance at some point. Right. And it worked out well. And, I was lucky because I grew up as the son of a high school football coach. My dad was a coach and my uncle was a high school coach. So that helped. And just went out of college at Bowling Green and student taught at Anthony Wayne High School over in Toledo, by the airport in Toledo, and had a great Steve Wilwall, great head coach to learn from in my first job. And I actually lived in his basement while I was trying to do my student teaching at the school, and rode to work with him, and he took good care of me. And then it was 2 years over at Madison as the D coordinator with Rex Reigert, and I got to work for Dick Kirschbaum.
No, that's awesome.
And then Mike Pavlansky, and then and then Donnie, and then obviously took over at Mentor. So, as a young coach, it's all about learning from people, good and bad. You learn, I didn't like how he did this, I loved how he did that. And, I had a wide variety of people who were really great people and great coaches to learn from and to take things from. And, I just sat back and took my time. I think, unfortunately, too many of the guys these days, they want to rush into becoming a head coach. I don't think you're always necessarily ready,
Right.
and I think I took my time, and that helped me to get to where we were, because, you learned, you watched, you listened, you learned the whole game, and,
Right.
and that's the big part of it. So I was really lucky from that standpoint, and every lesson you learn from, and every interview you got to go on was a great learning experience. And, I was in line for the Chagrin Falls job, and Nordonia and a couple others on the west side. And they were all great opportunities.
And everything
to
kind
learn.
of worked out in your favor at the end of the day.
Dumb lucked into it. So we'll take it.
Right. And the reason I asked that question, because you stopped coaching at Mentor altogether, went to Riverside High School. You got hired as Riverside's defense coordinator in 1996. How did you wind up at Riverside?
Well, we parted ways with Mike in different philosophies and different opinions on things, and that's fine. And it was just Donnie had called and said, I had known Donnie because I was part of the Coaches Association here in Lake County, and even as an assistant was very active with it and got involved with it. And Donnie said, come on over. It was close. I had great principal at the elementaries I was teaching at in Mentor, and I said, go, we'll take good care of you, and then let me get out when I needed to get out. And it was a good experience, and then I was able to bring Donnie over to Mentor.
That's what I'm getting into next.
So it's just amazing the relationships you learn, and how you end up in different places.
I think that's the best part, is the relationships you build with the kids that you coach, even with the coaches that's on your staff that go on, and that's just cool.
Absolutely.
That's the world of high school football is just a wonderful place.
And I enjoyed it over there, and you had the opportunity to be with Donnie, and met some good friends that way, Pat McHenry and John Sangdahl and a couple of those guys, and Chuck Donaldson, and it was a good year over there, and then things worked out at Mentor after that. And that's what I'm getting
into, is you arriving at Mentor. A few short years after Mentor not hiring you, you receive a phone call from Mentor Schools in the summer of 1997. They informed you Pavlansky stepped down as the head football coach. During that phone call, they asked you to become the interim head football coach for the Cardinals. Did you know right away after you getting off that phone call that you were taking that interim job and heading back to Mentor?
Oh, absolutely. That was a great opportunity. And even if it hadn't worked out and they had hired someone else, that 1 year experience would have been was great for me.
Sure.
And Max Ness took a chance. Max was he was my unit principal at Mentor High when I went there. So I knew Max, and he took a lot of grief. Hired a young guy, but he sat back and he held his ground, and said, I think this guy can put us where we need to go. And it was the end of July.
Yeah,
it was late.
I think it was like July 21st.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I read that day.
I showed up on Monday. We ran a camp and tried to go, and we played a brutal schedule.
Man, talk about going into that first week. You're preparing for a whole summer.
Yeah, and I felt bad. I left Donnie on a limp, but he says go. And it was hard. I mean, that was a tough year from flying by the seat of your pants. And getting up to the high school, because I was teaching at the elementaries, and just getting and going and running, and we went Canton McKinley won the national championship that year. Warren Harding, it was in the top 5 when we beat him. We had Lake, we had Euclid. I mean, it was just a brutal schedule. So we brought you right into it.
And you ended up going 4-6 with a schedule like that. Going 4-6,
we blew out at the end. It should have been
necessarily
5-5.
isn't terrible.
No, it wasn't. And you know what it was is I took the job and I walked in the first day and it probably caught people by surprise. But I looked at this and I told the kids, I'm not taking this for 1 year. I'm here to stay.
Right.
And the kids bought into it and bought into what we were doing. And, the numbers were down in those days. Man, when I came in, it was not necessarily in the place we wanted.
Today, right.
I think there was only 70 some odd kids there at that time. And, the numbers were down and we were able to go in and play hard and have some fun, and heck, we made the playoffs the following year. So it was, it worked out. And people always say you never know how things, something bad turned out, and it turned out and worked out the next year.
Exactly.
You just gotta, always learn from life. And having parents who were, old school people, and they just get up every morning, go to work, do the best you can, and
absolutely
things will work out. And that's all you can do. You can't control other things. Just do the best you can, and that's what we did, and it worked out well.
Yeah, and things came full circle. So
that it did, amazingly enough.
And then after the 1997 interim season, you officially get hired as the permanent head football coach at Meyer High School. Would you say that was a dream job, like a dream come true for you?
I literally,
especially coaching at your alma mater.
Absolutely, that was the thing. I literally left Meyer, and I know this sounds stupid, but I told people I'm going to come back and be the head coach, and I'm going to straighten this place out.
Yeah,
and
kind of do it your way,
make it what it needed to be. And you know what? The nice part I had, and I know I'm probably rambling, but the next part I had was I was from Meyer. So I knew Meyer, and I knew the idiosyncrasies of it, and I knew what it was made of. It's a big job. In those days, it was 3 middle schools, or 3 junior highs, I should say, in those days. So you had 3 7th grades, you had 3 8th grades, you had 3 9th grades, you had a JV team, a varsity team, and you had a big youth league that was really was kind of all over the place in those days. It was messed up. I mean, they had middle school, junior high kids in it, and that was one of the first things we tackled. We came in and we started from the bottom up, and we built it. We straightened out the youth league and got the kids out of it.
That's a question I wasn't going to ask, but I did have that as a backup question. How important was that to build up the youth leagues, running your system, getting to where they get up to the middle school and get up? How important is that?
I think that's the key. And I think that's what we did. And we did it from the beginning. We built that program the right way. It was, I don't remember those days, it might have been 2nd to 6th grade. There were kids in 8th grade playing in that youth league up to that point. So we changed it a lot. We met a lot of people angry. I can remember sitting in I don't even remember, it was the old Maximilians. We had used the back room and we had a meeting, with all the people, and they didn't want to change their youth league. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, this is going to change. And we changed it. And in a short period of time, it worked out well. So we really started from the bottom, with us and the coaches and the administration. It was great. And we built that bottom and then fixed up the middle schools, and then it worked its way up and kept kids in town. In those days, I think when we first got there, 18 of Lake's 22 starters went to Meyer's junior highs.
Wow.
And we said that's going to end. We ended that. And we did a good job of, I'm sure there's people listening who won't like to hear that, but we did a good job of keeping our kids and developing that pride in our school and in our town.
And I think that's super important. And the middle schools wearing the color red, having the card on their helmet, stuff like that is always important. Over your 23 seasons at Meyer, you had some amazing coaches and players. You've had 3 coaches that I know of that coached under you that went on to become head coaches. Jeff Grubich at Kenston High School. Jeff Fink was at Brush, but now I believe he's at JCU as offensive coordinator.
He's actually left there, and he's just doing some dad roles right now.
So, that's right. I did know that.
South Carolina, I believe.
That's
another great coach.
I did know that.
Yep.
And then Matt Gray took over for you after you retired.
And Nick Alexander over at Walsh.
Oh gosh, I can't believe I forgot Nick.
Oh no,
unbelievable. He's going to be upset with me.
He's going to be mad at me.
He's going to definitely be upset with me because he's been looking forward to this episode. He's been kind of tweeting back and forth.
But you look at that, and I probably interrupted your question, but that's one of my key roles I took on. I wanted to make sure anybody who wanted to get into this profession, we pushed them in the right way. Grube Prue was the first one who left and became head coach. He took over at Kenston. I'm not even sure what the year was now.
I think it was around 2008.
Was it?
Because I got there in his year 2 when I got
He
hired.
was there with me for about 10 years. And you knew right away he was special.
Yeah.
He had special qualities. And so I was able to do a really good job with him of preparing him in the entire game. I was able to move him to different spots, and it's not always easy to do, but I was able to make him a defensive coach and an offensive coach and a special teams coach.
And to bring up a story that you mentioned, that is, I believe one year you had like 4 returning seniors in the secondary, and you told him, yeah, you're going to go to the offense side of the ball. You're going to coach wide receivers this year. And then I believe you took over. So I believe that's one of the funny stories you told him. Like, that's awesome.
He's still mad at me. No, you know what? I thought that was important, and I think he'll tell you the same thing today. It prepared him the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to do. And it's not easy as a head coach to move guys around, because they've developed their strengths, but you got to do what's best for them too. And just to have those 4, and 3 of them were at the Browns game as the coach of the week this year. All 3 of them. It was really cool. And obviously Jeff did a great job at Brush, and then John Carroll, and I'm sure he'll get back into it again here soon. But and then I have 3 former players who are head coaches. And Joe Casper's with the Eagles now.
Oh, that's
Jake Sankel is with the Washington football team.
The football
team.
Can't say where it's kids anymore.
I don't know what it is anymore. And Fred Hales with Notre Dame, and Jake Rose, Luke Rose is off with Rutgers. I think he's as a strength coach. So we got a lot of guys in a lot of places. That's really, really cool. And I got to travel out I took the year off this year and traveled to St. Louis to watch Ben Pike coach and, as a head coach. And Benny's doing a great job, and got to meet his young little boy, and that was fun. It's just cool to see around. Anthony Freight's out in South Carolina as a head coach.
Right.
And great years.
Again, that's the coolest thing, is seeing your players grow up, how they doing now, them getting married, things like that.
It's fun.
Business owners, I think that's cool. Speaking about young coaches, do you have any advice for a young coach that aspire to be a head coach?
I think that, if it's your goal, first, and you could ask Group and Gray and Nick, I always said, don't go be a head coach. Whatever you do, it's a crazy job. But you got to learn. Yeah. You got to be willing to sit back and learn. They Group used to laugh. I used to make them go clean the equipment room, but you got to learn to do everything. And I did that. I spent a lot of years running around, fitting in uniforms and carrying stuff and lining fields and doing all the tough work. But you got to learn. You got to learn a whole aspect of it. The offense, the defense, the special teams, the off season, which is crazy nowadays. The weight room, you got to take fundraising. There's just so many parts of it. When I retired from teaching in 2015, I started keeping track hours, because they were doing stuff to side stuff for the school. So they had me keep track of my hours, just at Menor High, when I was not as a teacher, when I was because I was retired. It was 1,800 hours just at the school.
Oh, I believe it.
And I looked at him and I said, it was over 1,800. And I looked at him and I said, how many school days? 180. What's that come out to? As a general teacher, that's a 10-hour day. So it shows you how involved the grind is. It doesn't end. It really doesn't. Right. And you go from like the years the year we went back-to-back state title games, and you go 15 weeks, and then you turn around and you maybe have 3 weeks of which is all recruiting. College coaches coming in and out, and then you got to turn around
Christmas break, and then you come right back in January, you're back lifting.
Absolutely. And it starts all over again. It's just boom, 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 boom. And, and it's, you're up and back and you're around and you're running, and you think back now that I don't have as much to do, and you think back, wow, that's a lot of time and effort, but I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. It's, as a young guy, you gotta be willing to sit back and say, I need to learn. I need to learn the whole game. I need to, mature a little bit. I think I became a much better coach as my kids got older,
Sure.
as you understood kids a little
Yeah.
bit more. And I always thought I learned a lot because I taught elementary phys ed for like 8 years.
Yeah.
So you learned how kids were and how to treat people, and because there's so much to learn. If you really want to become a head coach, you gotta get around it, and you got to get around the right guy. That makes
Yeah.
it a lot easier. You're learning from the right
Yeah.
person, and but you can learn from the wrong person too. It's hard. It's a hard job.
Yeah.
You know, you look at what they're paying you, because they really aren't paying you much.
No, I think we added up. You make like,
It's not good.
it's probably like negative 10
Yeah,
cents an hour.
It's not
You
good.
know,
My wife was like, "What? Really? Didn't go out and work
and I always say,
anywhere?"
yeah, I always say I was so fortunate enough to like work with Jeff Grubich over at Kansas,
Sure.
especially he comes under your
Sure.
tutelage, and I learned things the right way and how
Yeah.
to do things and how to coach and how to, you know, talk
Yeah,
with players
sure.
on a daily and prepare and that type of thing.
Yeah,
So I'm
grind.
very fortunate to
Yeah.
coach with them.
And it's hard. I think unfortunately, there's not that many kids going into teaching anymore.
Yeah, especially right now. I mean,
No,
the teaching
it's
world's a
a-
crazy
it's a
world
tough
right now.
world.
Yeah,
And it's getting harder and harder to find people, you know, and especially when you're paying, because I know at least up here they pay better. In the Columbus area, they don't
Yeah.
pay quite as well for
Right.
assistant coaches. You know, they're paying them $5,000, and they're working 7 days a week, and
Wow.
they're in the off season, and it's
Yeah.
not easy. And it's hard to go home and tell your wife, I'm gone all this time, and here's your, after they take taxes and retire, here's your $1,500 you got, or whatever. But it's for the love of the game. But most importantly, and my good friend Ted Ginn, we always talked. It's about what we're doing for the kids. It's
Yeah.
about the children,
Absolutely.
and I always stuck with me. And I still talk to Ted all the time, and it's about what we're doing for the kids. And there's just not enough good role models out there for them anymore.
Right.
You can't look on TV and watch the garbage going on there.
No.
We've got to find good role models, and good role models got to be out there to help, especially the young boys. And somebody will say, well, I just say, well, because the young boys aren't getting enough good role models out there today. And as a sport of football, which is predominantly male, we've got to find guys that are doing it for the right reason.
Absolutely.
And my job was never about winning and losing. We're going to win a lot of games, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
My job was about preparing them to be better young men and
Right.
women. I had
And it's
3 girls who played for me. They're great young
Yeah.
ladies. I never
Right.
thought of that.
and it's preparing them for life after football is essentially
That's
what
your
our
job.
jobs really are.
It really is. And most people don't understand that. Oh, it's about winning and losing. Yes. If we don't win, we're not going to be there long. I always
Yeah.
got that, but that really wasn't what it was about.
Right.
And that you got to understand. And there's too much ego involved sometimes with people, and that's not always good.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
there's my soapbox.
You also had another coach on your staff by the name of Ness Janiak,
Mhm.
which I didn't send you this previously. I said because it's a pretty cool
Sure.
story. Coach Janiak coached quarterbacks for you for a very long time.
Yep.
Coach Janiak coached over 40 years and is now retired from the game.
Mhm.
Also, can you talk a little bit about your guys' friendship?
Oh, it's funny because Ness was actually my teacher.
Yeah.
When I first went to Ridge Junior High, I walked in and my homeroom teacher was this new teacher named Ness Janiak. And we laughed about it for years. And then I became his boss. And I was like, no. Actually, I think I'm gonna go stop by and see him now on my way home. What I learned from Ness is Ness was very even. Yeah. First of all, Ness was an amazing teacher.
Yeah.
You can go back to most kids who went through mentor in math, and they say, "Who's your favorite teacher?" And they say, Mr. Janiak. Why? Because he was a great math teacher.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy subject to teach.
No.
And
I still not good at
no,
that.
and he was able to, get kids to learn. We're coaches, but really we're teachers. And he was a great teacher. And he was able to. I was a little more fiery, so I was. I was in charge, and I was, so he was always really good at keeping that kid calm, cool, and collected, and getting him away from me when I got angry. And I was flying up and down the sideline, and he was an exceptional teacher and a very good friend, and good with the kids, and good with he kept things calm. You got to have, when you're putting a staff together, you got to have differences.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yes,
you
you
got to
do.
have young, you got to have old, you got to have experienced, you got to have youth, you got to have fire, you got to have calm. You know, I always knew I could go after people,
Yeah.
and he could go bring them back.
Yeah.
You
You
know?
always have to have that legacy
You gotta
guy that's
have
on the
that.
staff that's been there forever. And I'm sure
He
Coach
was
Janik
that,
was one of them. Yeah.
and he was smart, and you know, way smarter than I ever was. But he did a great job, and you know, yeah, to teach for 40 years,
Yeah.
to coach for 40 years is pretty special. And you know, he did a good job with the quarterbacks. He did a good job with a lot of positions.
That's where
We'll get to that one
next.
eventually.
Oh,
And you know, he did a great job of developing them and preparing them and keeping them even and not up and down and crazy. And
sure.
especially when you know, it's a different beast when you coach in the big time.
Oh yeah,
And,
Division I, Region I. I mean,
you know,
that's
a
real. That's
pound.
big time.
You know, that's big time football, and you know that they needed to understand their role, and he understood his well.
And this past season, I actually was over at Cleveland Heights with Coach
Mhm.
Max Stevens, and that was my first time Division I, Region I. And man, it is a grind every week. You don't get a week off, you know.
There is none, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's big time football.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
It's good.
You had some pretty talented players at the quarterback position. Just to name a few: Tom Abbott, Bart Tansky, Mitch Trubisky, Connor Krasancic, and I believe Ian Kipp was right before, right as you left. That was just to name a few. I know there's been several others. Two of which won Mr. Ohio's Mr. Football Award.
Right.
Bart Tansky in 2007, Mitch Trubisky in 2012. What was so special just about those two winning Mr. Football?
Well, winning Mr. Football is really cool.
Yeah.
That was a neat award for both of them, and I knew that meant the world to both of them. And you know, early that they're different. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look out and say Bart's really good. Mitch is exceptional.
Right.
You know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that
Yeah.
out. But what made them special is not only were they outstanding football players, they're unbelievable people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They were great leaders. I mean, they would lead. You know, Bart led in a different way. Bart was a little more quiet, reserved, and people followed him.
Yeah.
Mitch put the entire town on his back and took
Absolutely.
it for rides.
Sure.
You know, they both had uncanny ability. Bart, I always give a great story with Bart. We were playing in our first state title game, and we're in the locker room down at the old Faucet, and I'm walking around. Yeah, you know me.
Before game time.
And he looks up, he looks at me and goes, he's laying down on the ground. He goes, "Hey, coach, what time the game start?" I walked over to Ness. I said, "I think he's calm." You know, he didn't phase him. And Mitch was the same way. They were calm, cool, and collected. They were great kids. They still call. They still text. They cared about their school. It didn't matter. You know, Mitch already had scholarship, and most of ours did, but it didn't matter. His goal was to be the best he could be.
Yeah.
In the same way with Bart. And they were going to do everything they could to get Mentor as far as they could. They were special people. They were special leaders. You know, that's why they won.
Yeah,
you know, you don't just get that award by accident.
And actually, I was in middle school when Bart Tansky was coming through the ranks, and he's actually the one that got me to want to play quarterback at a high level. And I remember watching, I was at every playoff game that you guys were in at that time. I'm like, I want to watch the best player do it. And then Mitch Trubisky comes up. He graduated a year after I did.
Okay.
So me and him we traveled to camps, and we were almost at every college camp together. So we would warm up together. So that's always a story that I like to tell. And you know, Mitch is a great guy, and you guys have the Mitch Trubisky Youth Camp now that you named after him, and I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's
tons
special.
of kids.
Yeah, he's still Mitch.
Yeah.
I'll text him good luck and thanks, coach. How you doing? You doing okay? You know, he's just he cares.
No, that's
And
awesome. And you get to go see him when he played for the Bears.
I'm not going to
a few
Buffalo.
games.
It's too cold.
Way too cold.
I hope the next place he goes is warm.
Yeah. Coach, you've had an impact on thousands of student athletes over your time at Mentor. I wanted to ask you, though, who has had the biggest impact on your coaching career?
Well, I've been lucky. I've had so many. I you know, obviously I said my father was a high school teacher and coach, head football coach at Collinwood and Brush, and my uncle was the head coach at Collinwood after him. So I always had those two as great role models. To learn from growing up. I learned very early, this is how they did things,
Right.
and this is how they acted. And, I always thought I was a little more mature, younger, partially because of I grew up in a
Right.
locker room, probably learned things I shouldn't have in a locker room.
some language too,
He
right?
always says, like, well, you swear a lot. I said, well, where do you think I learned it? Because I never did. No, but your locker room did. But, so I had those two. And then, I had Ness Janiak as a teacher and Charlie Mennel at Mentor and then Randy Clemens at Mentor. And then, I went and had some really good coaches at Bowling Green. Yeah. And then Steve Wilwell over at Anthony Wayne, and then obviously Dick Hirschbaum, and then a little bit with Donnie, and so I had so many people. I was lucky with great administration. Max Ness is the AD, and Jeff Turingo and Jeff Casella, and then obviously Bill Hiller, Dr. Hiller, who hired me as the head coach, and then Jackie Hoynes, who was an outstanding leader of our school district, and Matt Miller and Bill Porter and the principals, and Joe Specia, who was a tremendous principal to work for. And I can remember sitting in his office for hours, and I'd just go in and sit down and we just talk. And I learned a lot from Joe, just listening and talking. And I can remember going into, I think it was the first year we went to the state title, I knew we were pretty good. And he says, man, I just want to, it would be great to go there once just to get to that game once, and get out of this region. And because we had gotten beat a couple of times or 3 times earlier. And we laughed about it. We laugh about it now, saying, yeah, we did it. And we just got out of it. But there were so many good people in administration who helped say, we want to get good. And
I think that's important when you have that backing, the people that support you. It makes your job that much easier.
You don't have it. There's no reason to go.
Yeah.
You go somewhere else, because if you don't have the right people, and I was blessed to have great administrators, and great leaders, and even more importantly, great assistant coaches who helped. We're there every day and working and grinding and got us where we got.
Those are the guys that ultimately make your job easier.
Absolutely. So I was lucky in a lot of ways. I was lucky in just who I was born into and who we got to, and was able to pull it off somehow.
That's great. Speaking of people that had an impact on you was Coach Urban Meyer at the time. In 2001, Urban Meyer was named the head football coach at Bowling Green, your alma mater. In an article I read, it said you spent several days down at BG meeting with Coach Meyer. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
I knew Urban when he was at Notre Dame as an assistant, so I'd known him, and then when he got the job, we were working towards the spread offense prior to it.
Right.
So we had a young man, a great quarterback named Tom Abbott, and we knew we had something special. And the year before, I think it was Tom's sophomore year, before we went to what we got to, we did a lot of no huddle stuff, and we spread it out. We just didn't quite have it all put together, and we played, we did some things, and I knew what Urban was doing, and he had spoke at the Columbus clinic, and I said, I know you're busy. Can we come down and talk to you for 2 days? He brought us in, and we had us full time with his staff, and now that was their first year. Yeah. And but Urban got it. Urban always got it. He was going to help the people who wanted to learn. And, and I learned from that, and I always helped people who wanted to come learn from us. And whoever wanted to come talk football at Mentor, they could have came on, and we would help them. They could come watch practice, and you learn from that. And he took that time, and we kept our friendship up. We still talk to him periodically, and we got to that in, I think it was 2002 was the first year we went to the true spread offense, and no one around here did it. No one. And it was a funny story. We went into this first game, and we were playing Glenville, and Teddy's had some great ones, great secondary. I don't even know whether Teddy Jr. was there or not that year. It was 2003. Could have been Teddy Jr. at that time. His group, and he had Whitner and all those. Yeah. They were good. That was going to be our first game. It's going to be the first time we're coming out and spread no huddle up tempo football. So we go in the first scrimmage, and we didn't move the ball at all. Yeah, so we scored nothing. And we go in the second scrimmage and scored nothing, and we're going, Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Oh, boy. And then we went into that first game. I think we scored 40-some points.
Was
and
that,
lit it
and that
up.
was when it was raining or something? I don't
It
know.
might have been.
You said it was
Yeah.
like a rainstorm, you
No.
still scored through.
Oh, that was later. That was later in
Okay.
that same year, though, and people had no idea what we were doing. And what happened in that one later on, we went to Lorraine, and it was just they were undefeated or whatever they were at the time, but they hadn't played anybody.
Yeah.
And it was pouring. And the guy walked up to me. He's an older gentleman who'd been around a long time. And, do you honestly think you could do this and throw the ball in this weather? I was living. You know,
No, you're like,
yeah, I was living.
you're damn right. We're about to throw about 70
I
times.
walked
tonight
over
now.
to Donnie, that's we're standing over there. I said, throw the ball every play this half. And we scored like 40 points and just went up and down the field. I said, okay, now you can run.
Yeah. And you know, it's a funny time because back then no one was running spread. Now you look at it today, everybody's running spread. So
shifting back around.
now
a
they're
little
shifting
bit,
back. Now you're seeing fullbacks and tight ends again.
It's
That's
shifting
pretty
around. But
pretty
that's
funny.
always what I wanted to do. It was always what I had an idea. It was just trying to get the little things that Irvin showed us what we needed to do to put it into what it is. And we changed every year. You know,
Yeah.
One year we were a tight end and two backs out of us
Yeah.
in what we did. Yeah. We looked in the offseason, what's our strength going to be? And we adapted.
Right, it's about your personality.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is how we did it. But it was a fun story, and he's a good friend.
That's pretty cool. Over your 23 seasons, I'm going to get
Sure.
into some of your statistics now. Over your 23 seasons at Mentor, you had 209 wins, 19 playoff appearances, 5 regional championships, 6 Final Four appearances, 4 state championships appearance. You were the Cleveland Browns Coach of the Year. You were Division I Coach of the Year. You had that honors. You were a nominee for the NFL's Coach of the Year. And there's probably some accolades that I'm missing in there. You had some great moments over your time at Mentor. If you had to narrow it down to one moment, is there a favorite moment that sticks out to you? That's a tough question. Over 23 years.
There's a lot of different things and a lot of different times and a lot of different stages. You always look back at the Mentor Ignatius game in the triple overtime.
Yeah.
It was a packed house. It was a huge game. That was Mitch's senior year.
Yep. I was at that game. Yeah.
I mean, just packed house, and it was electrical. Yeah, and they beat us good the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, they punched us right in the mouth, and we came out and played really well. And it was just one of those, a really neat experience. It actually became the moment of the year, the sports moment of the year in the city of Cleveland that year. And that was a fun night. Just the whole atmosphere of it. You know, you don't tend to quite get that kind of crowd anymore. I think TV's kind of taken away the atmosphere of games a little bit, especially in the Division I level, because they're always on TV. But that was pretty cool. That was a cool night. And, there were so many. We're just blessed to have, to be that successful and have fun. And, but I always said some of the funnest things were like 3 years ago, I went to 4 weddings of kids.
Players.
And, Coach, we come to the wedding? Absolutely. I got one in Kansas coming up this summer. That's fun, to see him and to watch him as parents and see how successful they are. And, I went to Angelo and Ronnie and Tom Brew and guys from the 2 and 3 team called. So let's go golfing. Those are the kind of things that's really cool that the old guys now, because they're in their 40s, but they might not be that, but they're getting up there and they keep track of you and they call every now and then and make sure you're all right. And to get the text every Christmas morning and on birthdays and that, just to see the guys keep track of the old guy and make sure he's still doing okay. That's the fun part. Winning and losing is what it is, but ultimately came down to just the relationships of you develop. And, that's the part you miss when you step away. You probably don't miss all those days in the weight room.
The weight room stuff, right? And you talked about like the crowds. You said Ignatius was a big crowd, and I was at that game. There was one other game that I was at because I was coaching, so I was kind of getting as much football games. Was when you guys played Willoughby South. And that was a cool game because they were loaded that year. Quarterback and 5 wide receivers.
I think we came in at 1 and 3. And
it was a heck of a crowd that pulled. Like it was standing room only for that game.
Unfortunately, that's the missing link today. I think people have gotten away. Now it doesn't matter. So there should be a lot of those games now because everybody
Yeah.
basically gets in the playoffs. But,
Yeah.
you know, people kind of pulled away from that, playing a tougher game. You know, I always said, you got to play a tough schedule. And it says, well, what if you can't get in? If you can't beat the tougher teams, who cares? Why you go? You don't deserve to get in. So, you know, I'm hoping that more of those kind of games get played.
Yeah.
You know, Menor South was a great game that
Yeah.
night. And you know, Duff was,
That was a tough game.
he
I
was
believe he
really
only
good.
won by
We
a
won
touchdown or two. Yeah.
You know, and we were struggling at the time, but, you know, he knew he was good enough that year to play it. And I get, you know, you might not be able to play that game year in and year out, but
Sure.
some of those are some of those games groups around here got to go play.
Yeah.
Because it's a great atmosphere.
No,
You know,
cool.
I think Menor's playing Riverside this year.
Yeah.
Coming up, and those are the kind of games that need to be played because, you know, you got to set your program. And
Yeah.
the
So
only way to set
those local games are always cool.
Yeah.
Local, that's a
because there were
rivalries
years,
that are
I
going
think
on,
there
you
was
know?
a stretch, maybe even before that and after it, that we really never played anybody other than Euclid around
Yeah.
here, Euclid and
Sure.
Solon. You know, otherwise we played nobody around
Yeah,
here.
you guys would travel pretty far.
Yeah,
to play
we'd go to
games, yeah.
Cincinnati, and, you know, and we'd go over to PA, and you know, so it was, you know, that's unfortunate. You know, well, we can't play with them. Well, you know, that's why I like playing Eds and I like playing Ignatius.
Yeah.
And we played X, and you know, those are the games. You know, to me, yeah, you could tell I got older and bored, but you know, playing somebody who wasn't very good to me was a waste of time.
Right.
You know, you came out in the first quarter and you play hard, but you didn't have to.
Right.
And you know, you only get 10 times. You gotta have some good games
I
built
agree.
into those 10. And you know, I feel bad for Kirtland. He gets so many of those bad games that,
Yeah.
you know,
Trust me, I told you when I was at Cardinal, we would play
Yeah.
Kirtland. I was dreading
Yeah.
going over there, to be honest with
but
you.
you know, that's hard for, you know, when you are at that level to try to play. So, you know, I'm hoping now that everybody tends to get into
Yeah.
playoffs.
There's
so
talks
they'll play
actually,
tougher.
the WRC with Kent said that there's talks that they're going to disband and there's going to be actually a higher level
That'd be
in the
good.
CVC. And I think that'd be good. North, South,
Yeah, sure.
Kirtland, you know,
Yeah,
West Geog. I
absolutely.
think that'd be good for them.
I'm sure Kirtland would love to have that where they can play,
Yeah.
you know, at least 6 or 7 games that you really got to
Right,
buckle
right.
your chin strap
Yeah.
to play.
I agree. This is the toughest question for me.
Sure.
And I was debating on even asking it. Where am I at? After your retirement, hold on, I'm sorry. You've done it all as a head football coach, but win a state championship.
Yep.
Is that something that kind of always sticks in the back of your mind?
Yeah, I mean,
it has to bother you.
yeah, it
just a
bothers
little
you.
bit.
You did it. I think you always wanted to do it for the city and the school. And we had chances. We were in overtime and lost 55-52, and you know, had chances.
Damn
It didn't
2-point
work out.
conversion.
Yeah,
You know?
and it was, yeah, I thought we were good enough in 19 my last year if we could have pulled that one off down in Canton or wherever we were that night. And you know, it's hard to play, and now to play 16, to play 15, and to stay healthy and to grind coming out of here. You know, you know, it was always easy for some of the other regions to go play. You know, we had to come out of here, and there was a year, and I don't remember which one it was. I don't know if it was 12 or 13, where we played the 5 games we played. All 5 were top 10 teams in the state of Ohio. It was Warren Harding when, you know, they had James Daniels. I think he's with the Bears now, and then you know, and we were Eds and Ignatius, and then we caught. I think we caught McKinley or one of those in the semis, and it was a grind. You know, and to play that week in and week out is so hard.
Just to stay healthy.
Stay healthy and to stay mentally and physically healthy and focused and go through that. And it's not easy. It's a grind, and everything has to work out at the big level. You know, smaller level, they're only playing 2 or 3 pretty good teams in their 5. You know, there's years where we caught 5 of them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard to go, and where, you know, and then other teams come out and they play 2, and you can glide a little bit and really get it going. So it's hard. It's by far the hardest thing to do in high school sports is to win a Division I title, especially as a public school.
Yeah. Oh,
It's not easy. Things got to go right. And you feel bad about it, but you also look back and say, that was pretty cool. That was a pretty good year.
Yeah.
We were pretty good and made a run at it. And they'll get it done. And, the first one to be there to support them and go for it. But it was a great career. And I can't complain.
Right.
Right.
No.
We got fired.
209 wins.
So I can't complain about it. And, you learn as much from the wins as you do from the losses.
Absolutely.
And life's not fair.
Yeah.
I don't know where we came in this world where everybody thinks life's fair.
No,
Never was and never is and never will be. And
No.
you got to learn how to handle. And that's what fun watching Mitch handle his ups and downs of things, and he's done it so professionally and perfectly. And you got to learn to handle the good with the bad.
Absolutely.
You want to get the good, you better be able to handle the bad, or
better,
don't get into business.
Right.
And so that part's been fun.
Absolutely. After your retirement, you were a huge advocate for the hiring of Matt Gray as the next football coach at Mentor.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about why or how you knew Coach Gray was the right guy for the job?
Just like with Matt and Jeff and Nick and Jeff Grubich, when people, when you interview when you first meet him, that this guy's a little bit special, and this guy, he's going to be a good worker. And everybody's got roles, and you could tell right away. Number one, Matt had a great knowledge of the game of football. That's a heck of a lot smarter than I ever was. And he did well with the kids, and he understood the program, and he always wanted to learn. And I was glad I got to have him. I put a lot on him on the last year, purposely to prepare him and to understand walking into a massive football program, and there's so many things you got to take care of, and raising money and
there's 3 freshman teams,
doing all that. It's hard. And he was always there to work and learn. And even when I said, man, I need you to do this, it's like he's probably like, oh, get somebody else to do it. But he always did it. And what you got to understand is it takes a while. I was still learning in year 23 things, that, oh man, why didn't I do this?
And that's the thing, is the game's always changing too. It changes back and forth.
It's the one thing in sports, and you look in the NFL, you better have a great head coach. Yeah. And you better have a great quarterback. Yeah. We've been able to have, at least quarterbacks. I don't know if
you've seen that over and over with the Browns.
You got to have it. It's the single hardest thing to find, and it's not easy to do. And unfortunately nowadays I always yell at my guy at the Eagles. I said, quit with this analytical garbage and make decisions on the game of football.
I'm sick of hearing the word analytics every NFL game. Analytics. Yeah. Can you get the 4th and 1 or can you not?
What's the situation? What's the weather? What's your tiredness? And there's just so much to the game. It's so evolved and so. There's just it's a big job, and I knew Matt was ready for it. And I knew one way or the other, and sometimes you can't stay too long as a head coach, because I knew if I wasn't going out soon, Matt would have gone somewhere, as he should have, as the other 4 did. And
you can't lose a guy like that.
You can't lose the guy like that in the same way you couldn't lose. When Grube left, I obviously wasn't ready to go, and when Fink was left, I wasn't ready to go. And same way with Nick. And I tried to talk them all. I'm not staying here forever. Yeah. But you got to move on and go make that decision. Matt stuck at it and kept working, and he's going to make good decisions. He's going to make bad decisions. I made a lot of bad decisions. What did you do that for? But that's part of learning, and it takes a long time to get to be a pretty good football coach. It doesn't happen overnight. And, he's going to do really well, and the kids like him, and he works hard, and he'll prepare hard.
And at the time of your retirement, this is another funny story, another Grubich story. At the time that you announced your retirement, we always messed with him. We were like, "Oh, you going back to Mentor?" Just as the time, because we were on our staff, we would just always like messing with Grube. So that's just a funny story. I want to talk a little bit about your family, because I think it's a pretty cool story. As we talked about already, you graduated from Mentor High School in 1981. But in 11th grade, you met your wife, Pam.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your wife and how she stuck by your side through all the 2 days, late meetings, and
I
tough
have no
losses?
idea why she did. She's a sharp girl now. You know, you can't do this job without the right wife. You really can't. And she, I think she took things harder than towards the end, it got hard on her too.
Yeah.
You could tell it. You sometimes got to step away because she needs me to step away. And, talk about a lady who works hard. She has her own. When I took the job, she left her job and started her own small accounting firm, and it's built it up pretty good. And, but not only that, she worked that. We had 2 kids. Like me, I was busy a lot, but she volunteered in the schools all the time.
Yeah.
She was very active in the community, won awards in the community for an active member and a volunteer. And, so I think she was special from that, and she got it. She got the game of football, and she got what I loved. And she was always there for it. And, she didn't care about the hours. Did she like you gone all the time? Probably not, but maybe she did. I don't know. But you've got to have that right person with you to help you get through it, and to do the.
They'll keep you sane after those losses too.
Oh, absolutely. She'd be a good critic too. What the heck were you thinking there? Yeah, like we went for 2 in the one game to win it. She goes, no, don't do that. What are you doing?
Kick the extra point.
Yeah, kick it, win. Let's keep going. And we had 2 girls. It was hard on them. It's not easy to be the daughter of the football coach, especially in a town where dad's pretty well known.
Yeah.
Dad's pretty, I don't want to say powerful, but dad's, the guy, and it's not easy. And it was hard on them, but they survived, and they both went into teaching.
Yep.
And they're both coaching. It's a funny story. I'm actually going to help my oldest, Tori, is a middle school cross-country track coach. I'm going to help her coach track this spring. We'll see. We'll see if I can handle the little ones. So we're going to do that. And Carrie's a phys ed teacher, took after her dad. And she is a soccer coach in high school level. And so they both got into it. And, I feel bad. It's a tough time to be a teacher with all this COVID stuff. I feel bad for them all.
Yeah. It's tough. Virtual days, it's where it's
hard,
mass teaching. It's tough.
The kids lost a year. They lost a year of discipline. They lost a year of how to work hard. So I feel bad. And thank God for the teachers out there right now and what they're doing. And, and I've said this all along, that kids haven't changed, but boy, parents and society changed. And
that's been honestly the tough part of coaching right now is the parents. I don't know.
It's just different. It's different. Social media has changed everything with that.
Yeah.
There's too much money in sports, which is a definite problem.
Yeah.
College football needs to change.
Yeah,
There's way too much money in it.
It's a mess right now. It really is.
So it's hard, but ultimately kids haven't changed. Kids still want discipline. They still want to work hard. And that was a nice part of being in Meyer so long. I really didn't have any of those issues with parents or kids. They, guys, Coach Triv said so, then you better get it done.
Right.
And that helped. And it's a different time. And hopefully we'll get through that. We'll get back to, you got to get up in the morning, you got to work hard.
Yeah.
And
I think we'll get back to it.
I hope so. And
history always
be on
repeats
time. And, all those little things you learn. Hopefully we get back to that and straighten out all what we're doing. So we'll see.
And as you mentioned, both your daughters are teachers now. Do you kind of think you steered your daughters into the education world, or do they want to take after dad?
That's a good question. I think I steered the younger one there. Tori, from the time she was little, wanted to be a teacher. She had like 3 imaginary friends and she'd teach. So she always wanted to be a teacher. And Carrie, I knew what, Carrie was a pretty decent little athlete. And I convinced her to go into phys ed and never work a day in your life, because that was a great job. And she's doing that. So I probably steered her that way a little bit. And I thought maybe at one point she'd go into the military, but she ended up going into teaching and doing that. And now we've got a grandchild, so that's fun. Grandpa really likes that. And so that's been good. And, you're not going anywhere without a good family. I wouldn't be the man I am or without the upbringing and the family got to be around. So that's a key. And you got to find that lady.
Yeah.
And, you know, I spent many a times that, you know, we'd have coaching staff get together with young coaches' wives, and, you know, I'd finally look at them and say, you know what, if your husband was in the real world, they'd be working till 5 or 6 o'clock at night. They'd be traveling, and they'd be working all summer long. So yes, they're gone a lot, but in the real world, you know, maybe it's about what some of those guys who travel and do a lot are doing. So it's probably not as much as you think.
Right. Yeah.
They'd look at me like, you're crazy. You're paying my husband $6,000. But you know, you gotta do that. And my wife was always good at working with and talking with and helping, you know, the younger wives too.
And you moved down to Columbus after your retirement, and you got to spend more time with your family. How cool is that now?
That's
that
really
you're
cool.
Right there with them?
You know, as you get older and you're not teaching and coaching, you just don't have the same camaraderie. So, you know, it becomes a family thing at that point.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice to be down there and be around. And, you know, all of a sudden at 6 a.m, they call, the baby's not feeling well. Can you watch her today? Sure. I got nothing else to do. So, you know, but it was fun to be down there, and it's a big place, man. Columbus has got a lot going on. So, you know, we live near Dublin and Hilliard and all those areas, and they're big, and a lot of things to do. And, you know, got to go over and see a couple Buckeye games, so that's fun. And, you know,
unfortunately, I'm a Michigan fan.
Well, I'm sorry about that, but no. So it's been good. We've enjoyed it.
Oh, that's awesome. Anything you would like to say to your family? Because I'm sure they're going to watch. I believe one of your daughters favorited one of my tweets. So anything you'd like to say to anyone?
Well, first of all, I mean, you know, I think I've tried to thank them over the years for, you know, they sacrificed, you know, probably more than a lot of kids had to sacrifice. You know, dad's gone, you know, or mom's gone or whatever. And but you know what, you gotta get up in the morning, you gotta go to work, and you gotta learn how to handle the good and the bad. And, you know, the kids are, you know, you get shots from friends and say, your dad's terrible football, your dad's an idiot. And, you know, that's the way it goes. Just ignore them and move on.
Right.
It's part of the business, and, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, you got to thank them for being there and putting up with it. But I also think they got a lot of pretty good life experiences. You know, I'd get up and like Martin Luther King Day and President's Day, I'd go into school and I'd be there. Well, I watched my kids, so, you know, put their bikes and their roller blades and they'd roll around Menor High School. And they knew every inch of Menor High School long before they went there. So, you know, they had good times, and they grew up in the weight room, and we'd be out at practice or something, and I'd just bring the sand toys and they'd go play in the long jump pit.
There you go.
You know, so you found ways to keep them active. There could be a lot worse ways to be raised than a coach.
I'm gonna have to remember that.
The sand pit here.
I
threw in the bucket, the shovel. There you go. They had sand pit. You know, they were fine. So it was a good life.
As we said before, you moved to Columbus area to enjoy your retirement, but your retirement from coaching did not last very long whatsoever. You got hired as the offense coordinator at Hilliard Bradley High School in 2020. How was being an assistant coach compared to being a head coach for so long? How was that for you?
A lot easier.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, it was COVID. My wife says, you know, we can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. Maybe you ought to go get into coaching, you know, and it's the school where Carrie's at. So they called. And so I went down there and I enjoyed the year. The kids were great. I loved coaching those kids, and we had fun. And it was a good year. I didn't coach this past year, but I did that year. And it's different, you know, because you're always looking, well, I didn't do it this way, but that wasn't I wouldn't go say anything. That's, you know, I'll tell you, if you want to hear my opinion, I'll tell it. But if not, I'm gonna support you and do it that way. But I had a good time. We had it was tough. I mean, that COVID year was really weird.
Strange,
because we were shut down a couple of times, you know, throughout the summer.
It was wear a mask, don't wear a mask.
Yeah.
Then kids have to wear them on the sideline. Like, how's that going to
practice? It was hard. But it was fun. We got on a roll at the end and made it to the third round of the playoffs. And then we lost 2 really good players. We could have made a really good run had those 2 stayed healthy. And Jack and Tayshawn, they were 2 great players. Both, it was terrible. They both got hurt in back-to-back series in the same game. It was like, great kids, and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the year. it was interesting taking a year off this year.
Yeah.
And then not coaching. The playoffs were hard, I'll be honest with you. You could tell at the stage of coaching, the playoffs always mean everything.
Yeah.
But, that was hard. Just, you know what, I'm gonna be going.
And it's funny, you go and watch playoff games, you're sitting in the stands, you're like, oh, what are they doing?
Yeah,
You start
it's amazing how
God,
smart you are
right,
in stands.
in the
Yeah.
stands, it's funny,
But it was a fun year. I'm glad I did it. Glad I took this year off, and we'll see what the future holds. I don't know. We'll
Right.
see. Played a lot of golf this year.
Oh,
That was fun.
yeah.
That was
I was
fun.
gonna say the year of 2020 where everything shut down, we played a
I
lot of
played
golf
a
that
golf.
year.
I played 40 times this year. I worked
Yeah.
at a golf course, and that was fun. I enjoyed it.
Man, free golf.
Free golf.
gotta be
That's what I
nice.
said. Cheap
Do you see yourself in any situation for you to become a head coach again?
You never know.
Yeah.
I always said I wouldn't mind going to a smaller school and just having fun and doing it. We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah.
I think it's a younger guy's game. Don't get me wrong. I do still think I have a lot to offer. A school, a program, kids, and just experience. Will I do it? I don't know. If the right thing when the right situation came along, yeah, I might. I still miss it. There's times I still get bored. I'm sitting at home going, Coach, maybe you could be doing something somewhere, but we'll see.
And you talked about possibly maybe becoming an athletic director.
Yeah, I talked about that. I think I'd probably stick to going into coaching if I ever did it again. And we'll see. We'll see how it pans out and how it plays out. If the right thing opens in the Columbus area. And I'm the kind of guy that I don't want to drive very far, so I wouldn't do any of that anymore.
No.
But I still think I have a lot I could offer, and it's just, is it the right situation? Do I want to get back into the grind?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay.
I don't know. If not, I'll just sit around and do podcasts with people.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. As we near the end of tonight's episode, Coach, you'll be the sixth coach to sign my coach's wall right behind you. If you could just
look at that.
Yeah. Got to get you up on that wall.
Awesome. There you go.
As Coach is signing the wall, I just want to thank all of our listeners and viewers. You guys have been great. Please keep subscribing and following us on all of our platforms. Coach, to end the show, I always ask, who is Coach Trivisonno for the listeners and viewers who might not know you? Who is Coach Steve Trivisonno?
Yeah.
Tough question.
It is a tough question. He's a young guy from Meyer, Ohio, who not young anymore. Who grew up in a great time where you went outside and you played all day and you worked hard and you got what you earned. And in the days where I always had a great elementary teacher, Gail Kiesecker, used to. Yeah, it's just, you're gonna have to work a little harder, son. You're not as good at this as some of those other ones, and you learn to work hard. You had a choice. In those days, your teacher told you got a choice. You're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, and this is where you're gonna go. And I think I learned a lot in those days that I needed to work hard, and I needed to get to where I got through hard work. I think I had a great. And one parent told me this, and I never really thought about it until he told me. And he said, "You have an interesting skill set." And I said, "What's that mean?" He says, "You have an innate ability to be completely in charge and tough and get after people and then turn around and love them and care for them." And I went, wow, that was a pretty cool thought. And, and I think I do have that ability. There was no doubt they knew I was in charge. You knew I was the head coach at Meyer High School and I was in charge of the whole program, and everybody knew it. But they also knew, and I think the kids knew who played for me, and I hope they'd say it, that Coach Triv was fun to play for. And he cared for us. He got after us, but he loved us. And that's always what we tried to do, and I try to tell those kids as often as I could, I love you guys. Let's go do this together. And hopefully they said that. And I'm a lucky guy, to be honest with you. I don't have a ton of money, or I don't have a lot of that, but to do some great things and to be around some amazing people and do a great job. And it was fun. It was a good job in a great school, in a great community. And I enjoyed every minute of it. It was my honor and my privilege to do it.
That's
And,
awesome.
that's who I am. I'm a pretty simple person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty, it's this way or that way, and that's the way we did it, and we had fun doing it.
No, good answer. Coach, well, I thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for
and,
having me. Appreciate it.
taking the time to sit down and talk with me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate all your time. I got lucky because you came down from
No,
Columbus.
it
and you're
caught me
here
at the
now,
right week.
so it's kind of a perfect timing. But please tune in next week as I sit down with one of the most motivational coaches in the country, Coach Kurt Hines. He's actually a coach down in California. Thanks again to our listeners and viewers, and we'll see you next week.
The Coach's Approach, a podcast where we sit down with high school coaches and get the cold, hard facts about the high school coaching world. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk X's and O's. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk the X's and O's. Win the day or dominate the day. The choice is yours.